review and explain tonight on Warhammer 40K. Now, on this channel, we usually play some intro music, but I thought that I would at least say what we're going to do while is trying to get in. Now, being Saturday, I would say there's going to be a lot of busy people, so I don't figure we'll get a big attendance, but I'm going to have a good show for those that do. Now, what shall we play for my intro? Now, normally I do this before we start, but how about with Let the Galaxy Burn? That is a phrase from 40K. You know, Horus the archenemy said, let the galaxy burn. So that's what we will play while people come in. But first, we get a car commercial. Then, we get a hair grooming commercial. I'm happy with my gray. Yes, now, I forgot something to do. I forgot to link this on the main channel. I kind of feel silly. Oops. Well, put it this way. We're having a YouTuber fail moment. Evidently, Bob and Lori love me. They're busy talking about Verily Veronica. Lori loves me. Yeah, they do. They can kiss my ass, too. Yes, they can. But yes, I forgot to link this on the main channel so people see it too come in. So it's kind of counterproductive for me to play music while people come in when I did not link this. I feel kind of silly. Like I say, normally I do this at the very beginning. Usually right before I hit on. But, well, I didn't. I mean, laugh at me. But now it is fixed. Hello, Bubba. So, yes, you know, I'll play some music normally when I start. And we're going to get into some stories in a bit. But, you know, this is what this channel is for. This channel is for entertainment purposes only. Now, it looks like everybody is doing drama. It looks like Bob and Lori's talking about me, YouTube schizophrenic. Like I care, let them advertise the channel. Now you see, that's what Bob and Lori don't understand is they're just advertising the channel. I mean, really. Especially when I go all to the trouble of Verily Veronica. You know, I want it to be seen. Although because I don't do her much, I don't have the character down like I should. But we're not going to tell everybody else that. Now, might be funny if I do like a story hour with Verily Veronica here at some time. Now, you know what, everyone? I'm not sure. Maybe that would, work better. I'm not sure if it's this channel or the Grimgoth channel. Maybe I could, hell yeah. But yes, I was thinking one of the two, maybe I could do like Verily Veronica and do like a story hour, because, the big joke is like drag queen story hour. So that's what I was thinking, this is the story channel. So should I do that here or should I do that on the Grimgoth channel? I'm not sure. But it seems that everyone in their drama uncle is on right now. So I expect that there'll only be a few intelligent people here that aren't going to engage in that tonight. Now, if the drama was actually worth something, I might bump regularly scheduled programming, but nah. Because these things are also made for replay value. Because people that want to learn about Warhammer 40k in the future, I am going to point to a playlist and tell them, there you go. Now, the only question is what to play tonight. I thought about playing a series of short stories because I did see a lot of people scheduled, so I did kind of expect to only have a handful of people today. Here's a 12-minute story. It's not a space story, but it's more of a fantasy story. And I think we might start with that one. It's called Maleficarum. Yeah, let me check my volume levels. And we will start with Maleficarum from the Age of Sigmar. But first, we must get through the commercials.
And we did it ourselves, just like we made these gingerbread taxmen. It's not fair that I don't get to do taxes.
This is amazing. I mean, looking at the people in this, wow. I'm not going to say it because it wouldn't be politically correct, but this family is a complete impossibility. You look at the mommy and the daddy and the baby and the young lady, and they're obviously not related in any way. It would be like me getting someone from Africa and China and then saying it made a little white baby. But it's the world we live in now. Damn it. They even put in another commercial in the commercials. Well, see, Saturday night, you shouldn't be in a petty fighting mood. It should be fun mood. So that's why I scheduled this.
The gates of Azir slammed shut. Ilinia had watched as the realms burned with warp fire, torchlight, and damnation. She had seen the god king and his cohort stride out to the field of battle. She had heard the clamoring and
Now, in this universe, the warp is also called the Immaterium. And we also would call it hell.
Of eyeless and many-eyed horrors. Death to the king! Death to the king! And she had almost laughed. For was Sigmar not infallible, unkillable, immortal? Ilinia wished she didn't have to choke on that mirth, now turned to poisonous black bile in her throat. Yes, in her throat and in her swollen belly. Ilinia had walked across the width and breadth of Chamon among the unwashed masses. Exodites fleeing the onrushing tide of wild-eyed murderers, mutants and marauders. At night, when she huddled with the others around the dim warmth of hastily constructed fires, she heard the distant screams and smelled blood on the wind. Every morning when she awoke, more people were missing, taken in the night, no matter how many watchers were posted. She imagined that most of the travelers shared the distinct sensation of a stone sinking and settling in the pit of your guts. For Alinea, the stone never left, and only seemed to grow, feeding on her anxieties. She began to dream then, in her walking trance and in her nightmares, that something festered inside her body, pulsing tendrils wrapping around her insides, squeezing life and sustenance from them. She walked and she dreamed for days that turned to weeks. Her shoes had lost their soles, and she had discarded them for wrappings of ripped cloth from her few extra clothings. The rough paths tugged at her tired feet, but she paid it little mind. Her passenger was quiet but not still. She could feel the swimming movement.
So evidently she must have a demon in her.
Small nudges and bumps, as if the passenger were testing the confines of its cell. It grew and she walked, the lakes of quicksilver and boughs of trees giving way to sharp mountain ranges and flurries of snow. She beheld the Realm Gate, a glowing arch of intricately woven facade of blue and gold. Light spilled forth from beyond the portal to the God King's dominion. He had already retreated within his indomitable redoubt, and now Azirian plenipotentiaries guided as many through the gate as they could, hoping against hope to save as many as they could. Alinea waited. She waited and hoped against hope that she would be saved. The gate closed with a thunderclap, fitting for the god.
Now the channel is called The Vox and the Void. And a Vox is a broadcasting unit in Warhammer 40k. And it's a very good narration channel. Now there's another one that has more material, but the narration isn't as good. This is a newer channel, and the narration on it is amazing. And I did a test stream doing this as audio commentary, so I wouldn't get struck, and it was okay. And we've done another one of these with Gav and Bob. And my next stream on here, we will have Gav and Bob parts 3 and 4. And the only reason why I didn't do Gav and Bob 3 and 4 is because I knew with all of the drama live scheduled that hardly anyone would be here. So that's why I went with the shorter things for tonight. But my next time, I will play part 3 and 4 of Gav and Bob.
The gate closed with a thunderclap, fitting for the god king of divine lightning, Alinea thought at the time. The crowds teeming and seething around the hill it rested upon looked on the empty doorway with dumb expressions. No golden fields of sanctuary lay on the other side. Only a framed picture of the uncaring mountain stared back at them through the disabled realm gate. There was shouting and screaming, but more than anything people wandered around aimlessly. It was as a Dwarden contraption had detonated amidst them, sending the tattered remnants staggering, confused and concussed, out of the blast radius. Alinea felt a kick in her gut, a spiteful, gleeful kick that seemed to say, "I told you so," and she turned and left. She didn't know where she was going. The home she had known when she had a loving husband and a warm hearth and family was long since burned to the founding stones. She also knew now that a future as such in the realm of Sigmar was just as much out of reach as returning to the past. The past before the invasion, before Dodric had turned against her. Alinea wandered into the snowy hills, her feet chill and numb in thin wrappings. She wrapped her arms about herself, but it did nothing to stave off the cold. Her passenger only seemed to sap heat from her limbs rather than share it. She wandered and she slept when it became dark, out of habit more than anything else. She wandered though she did not search for anything in the blinding daylight. Rather, she thought to herself, maybe she was trying to go as far from what people searched for as she could go. She dreamed again. In inky black and glaring white, she dreamed. Again of her passenger, But this time she dreamed not of a writhing mass of black ichor, but of a man. A man tall and fair, with hair of spun gold and eyes ablaze. She dreamed of him and she spoke to him. Why?
Now, this is kind of... I'm making a joke to myself. I mean, she's dreaming of a beautiful man, but it's turning out it's the demon inside of her.
Are you doing this to me? But he did not answer. A smile teased at the edges of his lips, but his countenance was a cold mask. She dreamed and she wandered. Days passed without change. Snowy hills gave way to glacier ice, but it was the same, and she walked. The ice, blasted by mountain winds, was rough and chipped. Frozen blades cut at her soles, her feet bloody, broken, blackened by frost. Her hands too were turning black from the extremities. Blood seeped slow and placid from the cracks in her skin. Alinea could not feel the skin of her face, nor see a reflection in the cracked ice, but...
Frostbite sucks, by the way. I have got it before. There's a spot on my ankle that's about this big around that looks absolutely nasty. I'll show it on YouTube sometime.
She knew her nose and ears and lips would look the same. She dreamed and wandered and left blood footprints on the ice as she did. Alinea had been reduced to a stumbling crawl, her limbs stiff, needles of frostbite in broken fingers. The lids of her eyes frozen shut, her nose long since reduced to a lump of inert tissue. Even her hearing was dulled and muted by creeping cold. As Alinea took halting steps and pulled herself along with wood plank arms, the ice and snow gave way to shale and scree. At times she would tumble and slide, downward, deeper. Slowly she was enveloped by warmth and then heat, sweltering, stifling, sweating. She burned in the cloying wet hot. She would have screamed if her lips were not sealed shut. A final tumble deposited her battered body in a shallow crucible. Alinea drew a ragged breath in through wrecked nostrils. She was finally at rest, wrapped in a crushing embrace. She slept. When Alinea came awake again, she felt more than heard, a rhythmic beat in the chamber around her. The unrelenting tattoo was as much heartbeat as it was drumbeat. It continued. The tempo accelerated, became erratic, fibrillating, frenzied, mounting in a bone-shaking crescendo. Alinea, drowning in agonizing sensation after the bleak emptiness of the tundra, was finally given a focal point when a clammy, clawed hand gently gripped the back of her head, propping it up. She could hear a cooing voice, though she did not hear it resound in her ears, but rather in her mind. It shushed her. "Be still, sweet child. Your time is near." Her passenger, who had been nearly still during her long ordeal, kicked, and Alinea flinched at the sudden violent motion. Another hand touched her brow, and then her immobile eyelids. Though she could no longer feel them, she could feel the tug as they were pulled open by the lashes. She could see again. Her eyes watered horribly. She could barely make out blackened gums and jagged teeth and a thin liver-spotted hand wielding a crooked blade near to her eyes. She whimpered in her throat and tried to squirm, but she was beyond her limits, and the hand that had gently cradled her head now became a vice, holding it still. The blade moved closer to her eye, but rather than blinding her as she had feared, it cut away the dead, black flesh of her eyelids, deftly removing most of them, leaving her unable to blink. There was some pain, but she was almost thankful for release from the unblinking darkness. The voice she had heard came again. "You must see the birth of the Messiah. You, the vessel of his return, must be witness to his coming." And the hand and the blade with it withdrew from her face. The grip on her head relaxed.
So it basically sounds like Rosemary Baby in the fantasy land. I just got kissed.
And she could then crane her neck slightly to look around. She was surrounded by a handful of men and women naked above the waist, with wrapped skirts of tan skin covering their legs. Sigils daubed their bodies in dizzying patterns. Braziers dotted the chamber, casting dancing, laughing shadows on the walls. Before her, A wooden icon of an 8-pointed star stood as tall as the tallest man, and a naked body hung from its spokes, tied with rough hempen ropes at the wrists. Those same sigils in the crowd were repeated upon the body, but carved in bloody swathes rather than in paint. The body had a wide gash above the pelvic bone where the entrails threatened to vacate the cavity within. One breast was entirely removed, the pectoral musculature...
Now, this story isn't what I thought it would be. Now, this is more of a horror story. Now, I am collecting horror stories, so when October comes around, you know, I'll have some horror stuff to play. I did not intend on playing a horror story, but I'm definitely going to put this on my October horror story list.
Beneath revealed, Elinia looked again at the one who cradled her. The grinning head nodded, the rotten gums and teeth joined by brown skin drawn tight over facial bones by age and sun, and thin hair sticking in every direction. It spoke to her again. The quickening comes. He comes. And Elinia felt sharp, cutting pain deep in her belly. Through her watering eyes, she saw the leader take the crooked blade from the hand that had cut away her eyelids. The tip of the blade dipped down to below her swollen belly. This will be ecstatic pain. No greater offering for our Lord. And the point slowly pierced her skin, as it dug deeper, severing flesh and sinew. Elinia screamed, a guttural noise from deep in her throat, rattling her atrophied tongue, the skin of her lips tearing in vicious tandem to the soaring of the skin of her belly. The racking pain shredded her nerves further, enjoying to a blossoming, sharp-edged pleasure. Elinia had her body invaded as the clawed hand widened the rough mouth cut into her belly, the pain ripping apart the last vestiges of her senses. The other hand came away and the head lolled back. Both hands entered the cavity of her body and pulled on something within. Her passenger. The pain and pleasure doubled again as the mass was removed from her. Its strings reluctantly pulled free of her innards as it was brought out of her and into the flickering firelight of reality. The air shivered and congealed around the leader holding aloft the living being. Elinia somehow lifted her head with nothing left in her body. She looked upon a luminous being, a babe of improbable strength, lifting its own head and tiny hands in victorious glory. Waves of thin blonde hair stuck to its wet body, eyes shining brightly in the gloom. The infant cried a shrill, sweet, tinkling cry, a sound tinged with portent that echoed in...
Now, Summer has never heard a baby cry in her entire life, but that sound of the baby crying, it made her react. I didn't expect she would. But yes, that baby cry made Summer look. And like I said, she's never seen a human baby. In fact, I don't think she's ever seen a child. Yes, I don't think she's ever even seen a child.
Elinia's head as her heart, bathed in dark light, gave out, her battered soul caving in, and she fell still, her last breath leaving her shriveled lungs, and Elinia,
You want a baby?
siress of the magnificent
We're gonna get
prince,
the baby?
died.
You want the baby, don't you? Wow. It is, I mean, she's coming here, she's gonna get this. I mean, I didn't know this, but my kitty wants a human baby. We'll have to go to the pet store, honey, and get you a human baby. You'll be upset, but I'll say, hey, it's in the pet store. And that was the end of the story. Oh, the channel's A Vox in the Void. I put down the Vox in the Void. The channel is A Vox in the Void. But yes, I found out that my kitty is very now she's trying to get into the box because she's looking for a baby. She's never seen a human baby. But she's looking for one. Now, of course, she doesn't know what one looks like. But I guess she kind of figures, I'll know if I see it. This was up against the box. So she's now looking in the box that you guys are sitting up on looking for the baby. Honey, we don't have no babies. I'm sorry, honey. We don't got no babies. We're fresh out. And you don't even know what a baby looks like. Now, the funny thing is to her, a baby's going to look like a kitten. So she's looking here for a baby human that she no doubt thinks looks like a kitten. Oh, man. Now, this one, I was going to wait till later, in my presentations to play this one, but I didn't think that one was going to be so horrific. Like I said, I expected it to be like a witch hunter story, and that one turned out to be a demonic birth story. Now, I didn't plan on doing a demonic birth story, so once again, I'll put that one on a list and save that one for Halloween. Now, this one is called The Wrath of Karn. Now, Karn is a space marine. Karn is a traitor space marine, pledged to the blood god. Now, see, there are 4 gods of chaos. In one of them, the most powerful is Khorne. Khorne. He is the blood god. And Karn is his favorite servant. And he's known as Karn the Betrayer. And they call him Karn the Betrayer for good reason. Because he'll kill everyone. That's a big thing about Karn. Now, his legion are called the World Eaters. And their father was named Angron. And Angron had a bad story. He got thrown to a world and became a gladiator because they made him become a gladiator. And when he couldn't kill his friends, they implanted devices in his head called the Butcher's Nails. And the Butcher's Nails will only make you feel good if you're killing people and ripping them to pieces. So they put these devices in Angron's head called the Butcher's Nails that made him butcher his own friend. And he did rebel, and the Emperor eventually saved him. But Angron is called Angron for a reason. He lives pissed off. And his sons from his legion at the time was called the Warhounds. And their father renamed them the Eaters of Worlds, or the World Eaters. Now, his sons, to make their father happy, they had these butcher's nails put in their heads. So they have literally messed themselves up for the love of their father. And the only way that they can feel pleasure is in the act of murdering people. And this tale is called The Wrath of Karn. And Karn is a major person in Warhammer 40k. Now, he's known for one thing. Now, it's a lost device he has, but it's a kill counter. In his helmet, he has... Well, this isn't a good picture of him. But yes, he's got a helmet that basically counts his kill goes on. And that's basically the briefing that you need to know before we listen to this story. Now, this story is about chaos fighting chaos. And the minions of the Blood God, led by Khorne, are fighting another Chaos God's minion. The Chaos God is called Slaanesh. And Slaanesh is a Shim. Yes, there is a Shim God. Supposed to be a he, but it looks just like a she. And it is a god of pain and pleasure, and the main god for a race called the Eldar, which you would think of as space elves. Now we will start this story of The Wrath of Karn. Hello, Mom. Hello, Pindar.
Blood
For the Blood God! Bellowed Khan the Betrayer, charging forward, through the hail of bolter fire, towards the Temple of Superlative Indulgence. The bolter shells ricocheting off his breastplate did not even slow him down. The Chaos Space Marine smiled to himself. The ancient ceramite of his armor had protected him for over 10,000 years. He felt certain it would not let him down today. All around him warriors fell, clutching their wounds, crying in pain and fear. More souls offered up on the altar of battle to the Supreme Lord of Carnage, Khan thought, and grinned maniacally. Surely the Blood God would be pleased this day. Ahead of him, Khan saw one of his fellow berserkers fall, his body riddled.
Well, Jennifer, this is a science fiction world called Warhammer 40K. And one of the reasons why I'm doing this is because Amazon is planning a series. You know the guy that played Superman, Henry Cavill? His new project is Warhammer 40K. And you know how Amazon is doing Lord of the Rings right now? Their next big thing they're going to do is Henry Cavill is Warhammer 40K. So one of the things I'm doing here is I'm letting you guys listen to stories and then explaining the who's and the whats. So when this big Amazon series does one day drop, then, and this world is so vast, I figure it'll take me 6 months to get people up to speed on it. You know, these are things that I listen to. You know, Star Trek and Star Wars are about to be replaced with this. So what I'm doing is just having an entertaining stories, and I'm basically educating everyone, so when the big Amazon stuff drops and they start making more movies, you know, you will be ahead of the game. You'll kind of understand, you know, what a Space Marine is, and that this guy's for the Blood God, and this guy's for the God of Pleasure over here.
Khan saw one of his fellow berserkers fall, his body riddled with shells, his armor cracked and melted by plasma fire. The berserker howled with rage and frustration, knowing that he was not going to be in at the kill, that he would give Khorne no more offerings on this or any other day. In frustration, the dying warrior set his chainsaw to maximum power and took off his head with one swift stroke. His blood rose in a red fountain to slake Khorne's thirst. As he passed, Khan kicked the fallen warrior's head, sending it flying over the defender's parapet. At least this way his fallen comrade would witness Khan slaughter the Slaanesh worshippers in the few delicious...
Now, the thing with the Blood God, in worshipping the Blood God, he has rules. Khorne does not care from whence the blood flows. So Khorne is just as happy with you dying as the other guy dying, as long as somewhere along the line there is a bloody death.
Just moments before he died. Under the circumstances, it was the least reward Khan could grant such a devout warrior. The betrayer leapt over a pile of corpses, snapping off a shot with his plasma pistol. One of the Slaanesh cultists fell, clutching the ruins of his melted face. Gorechild, Khan's demonic axe howled in his... Khan...
Now, you remember I talked to you about Angron. Well, Angron died and became a demon prince. And when he did, he lost one of his axes. You know, his father, you know, his genetic creator, had two weapons, Gorefather and Gorechild. When Angron died, he lost the small axe Gorechild. And it was salvaged, and that is now Kharn's weapon.
Brandished it above his head and bellowed his challenge to the sick yellow sky of the demon world.
Oh yes, and for those that don't know it, a chain axe is a giant battle axe that is like a chainsaw. Now, most of the time, people in this universe use chain swords, which are giant swords that are giant chainsaws with, you know, a rev button. But this is a chain axe. This is a giant battle axe that is just like a chainsaw.
Our throne! Khan howled. On every side, frothing berserkers echoed his cry. More shells whined all around him. He ignored them the way he would ignore the buzz of annoying insects. More of his fellows fell, but Khan stood untouched, secure in the blessing of the Blood God. knowing that it would not be his turn today. All was going according to plan. A tide of Khorne's warriors flowed across the bomb-cratered plains towards the towering redoubt of the Slaanesh worshippers. Support fire from the Chaos Titan artillery had reduced most of the walls around the ancient temple complex to just so much rubble. The disgusting murals painted in fluorescent colors had been reduced to...
Now, in this world, they said the Titans. Titans are giant war machines, like battle mechs, or Jaegers. That would probably be the closest thing. You remember the Jaegers from movies? Well, a Titan is in many ways much like a Jaeger.
Atoms. The obscene minarets that crowned the towers had been blasted into well-deserved oblivion. Lewd statues lay like colossal, limbless corpses, gazing at the sky with blank marble eyes. Even as Khan watched, missiles blazed down from the sky and smashed another section of the defensive wall to blood-covered fragments. Huge clouds of dust billowed. The ground shook. The explosions rumbled like distant thunder. Sick joy bubbled through Khan's veins at the prospect of imminent violence. This was what he lived for. These moments of action where he could once again prove his superiority to all other warriors in the service of his exalted lord. In all his 10,000-year existence, Khan had found no joy to touch the joy of battle. No lust greater than his lust for blood.
Now, when you become a Space Marine, you basically become virtually immortal. Khan has been alive for 10,000 years. This is Warhammer 40K. Khan is from the Horus Heresy. He's from around the year 30,000, and this is about the year 42,000 that they're in.
Here on the field of mortal combat, he was more than in his element. He was at the site of his heart's desire. It was the thing that had caused him to betray his oath of allegiance to the Emperor of Mankind, his genetic destiny as a Space Marine, and even his old comrades in the World Eaters Legion. He had never regretted those decisions, even for an instant. The bliss of battle was reward enough to stay any doubts. He jumped the ditch before the parapet, ignoring the poisoned spikes which lined the pit bottom and promised an ecstatic death to any that fell upon them. He scrambled up the loose scree of the rock face, vaulted over the low wall, planting his boot firmly into the face of a defender as he did so. The man screamed and fell back, trying to stem the flow of blood from his broken nose. Khan swung Gorechild and ended his whining forever. Death is upon you! Khan roared as he dived into a massive depraved cultists. Gorechild lashed out, its teeth bit into hardened ceramite, spraying sparks in all directions. The blow passed through the target's armor, opening its victim from stomach to sternum. The wretch fell back, clutching at his ropey entrails. Khan dispatched him with a backhand swipe and fell upon his fellows, slaying right and left, killing with every blow. Frantically, the cultist leader bellowed orders, but it was too late. Khan was among them, and no man had ever been able to boast of facing Khan in close combat and living. The numbers 2243, then 2244 blinked before his eyes.
Remember I told you his helmet has a kill counter in there? So right there, as he's killing, there's a little counter in his head right here that he can see that is counting up as he kills.
Ancient Gothic lettering of the digital death counter, superimposed on Khan's field of vision, incremented quickly. Khan was proud of this archaic device, presented by War Master Horus himself in ancient times. Its like could not be made in this degenerate age. Khan grinned proudly as his tally of offerings for this campaign continued to rise. He still had a long way to go to match his personal best, but that was not going to stop him trying. Men screamed and howled as they died. Khan roared with pleasure, killing everything within his reach, reveling in the crunch of bone and the spray of blood. The rest of the Khornate force took advantage of the destruction the betrayer had caused. They swarmed over the walls in a howling mass and dismembered the Slaanesh worshippers. Already demoralized by the death of their leader, not even these fanatical worshippers of the Lord of Pleasure could stand their ground. Their morale broken, they panicked and fled. Such pathetic oafs were barely worth the killing, Khan decided, lashing out reflexively and killing those Slanesh worshippers who passed too close to him as they fled. 2246, 2247, 2248 went the death counter. It was time to get on with his mission. It was time to find the thing he had come here to destroy. The ancient demonic artifact known as the Heart of Desire. Attack! Khan bellowed and charged through the gate.
Now, the blood god Khorne, he is into skulls. I mean, he is into skulls beyond your imagination. It's his favorite tribute. Now, every time Karn kills someone, a skull appears in his throne room. There's like piles of skulls all around the throne room, and Karn has his own pile. So, in the real world, whenever Karn kills someone, in the throne of his god, right near it, a skull just will drop down out of nowhere onto a pile. So, as he's killing everyone here, in his god's throne room, there's a growing pile of skulls.
Mouth of the leering stone head that was the entrance to the main temple building. Inside, it was quiet, as if the roar of battle could not penetrate the walls. The air stank of strange perfumes. The walls had a porous, fleshy look. The pink-tinged light was odd. It shimmered all around, coming from no discernible source. Khan switched to the auto-sensor systems within his helm, just in case there was some trickery here. Leather-clad priestesses, their faces domino masked, emerged from padded doorways. They lashed at Khan with whips that sent surges of pain and pleasure through his body. Another man, one less hardened than Khan, might have been overwhelmed by the sensation. But Khan had spent millennia in the service of his god, and what passed through him now was but a pale shadow compared to the battle lust that mastered him. He chopped through the snake-like flesh of the living lash. Poison blood spurted forth. The woman screamed as if he had cut her. Looking closer, he saw that she and the whip were one. A leering, demonic head tipped the weapon's handle and had buried its fangs into her wrist. Khan's interest was sated. He killed the priestess with one backhanded swipe of Gorechild. A strange, strangled cry of rage and warned him of a new threat. He turned and saw that one of the other berserkers, less spiritually pure than himself, had been overcome by the whip's evil. The man had torn off his helmet, and his face was distorted by a sick and dreamy smile that had no place on the features of one chosen by Khorne. Like a sleepwalker, he advanced on Khan and lashed out with his chainsword. Khan laughed as he parried the blow and killed the man with his return stroke. A quick glance told him that all the priestesses were dead, and that most of his followers had slain their drugged brethren. Good, thought Khan, but part of him was disappointed. He had hoped that more of his fellows would be overcome by treachery. It was good to measure himself against true warriors, not these decadent worshippers of an effete god.
And that's why they call him Karn the Betrayer, because many times when the battle is over, he does not stop. So you might run out of enemies, and Karn might decide he's not done fighting yet.
Gorechild howled with frustrated bloodlust, writhing in his hand as if it would turn on him if he did not feed it more blood and sinew soon. Khan knew how the axe felt. He turned, gestured for his companions to follow him, and raced off down the corridor. Follow me!
Well, I hope you feel better, Rachel.
To the slaughter! Passing through a huge arch, the former Space Marines entered the inner sanctum of the temple, and Khan knew that they had found what they had come for. Light poured in through the stained glass ceiling. As he watched, Khan realized that the light was not coming through the glass, but from the glass itself. The illustrations glowed with an eerie internal light, and they moved. A riotous assembly of men and women, mutants and demons, enacted every foul deed that the depraved followers of a debauched god could imagine, and Khan noted that they could imagine quite a lot. Khan raged.
Now, I'm not doing drama, but when they said any foul thing you can imagine, for some reason I just put Jimbo Collins in the picture.
He seized his pistol and opened fire, but the glass merely absorbed the weapon's energy. Something like a faint moan of pleasure filled the chamber, and mocking laughter drew Khan's attention to the throne which dominated the far end of the huge chamber. It was carved from a single gem that pulsed and changed color, going from amber to lavender to pink to lime and then back through a flickering random assortment of iridescent colors that made no sense and hurt the eye. Khan knew without having to be told that this throne was the heart of desire. Senses honed by thousands of years of exposure to the stuff of chaos told him that the thing fairly radiated power. Inside was the trapped essence of a demon prince, held forever at the whim of Slaanesh as punishment for some ancient treachery. The man sitting so regally on the throne was merely a puppet, and barely worth Khan's notice, save as something to be squashed like a bug. The man looked down on Khan as if he had the temerity to feel the same way about Khorne's most devoted follower. His left hand stroked the hair of the leashed and naked woman who crouched like a pet at his feet. His right hand held an obscenely shaped rune sword, which glowed with a blasphemous light. Khan strode forward to confront his new foe. The clatter of ceramite-encased feet on marble told him that his fellow berserkers followed. In a matter of 100 strides, Khan found himself at the foot of the dais, and some odd, mystical force compelled him to stop and stare. Khan did not doubt that he was face to face with the cult leader. The man had the foul, debauched look of an ancient and immortal devotee of Slaanesh. His face was pale and gaunt. Makeup concealed the dark shadows
Now, Slaanesh is the name of the god of pleasure.
under his eyes. An obscene helmet covered the top of his head. As he stood, his pink and lime cloak billowed out behind him. Tight bands of studded leather armor girdled his naked chest, revealing lurid and disturbing tattoos. To the heart of desire, the Slaanesh worshipper said in a soft, insinuating voice, which somehow carried clearly across the chamber and compelled immediate, respectful attention. Khan was instantly on his guard, sensing the magic within that voice, the persuasive power which could twist mortals to its owner's will. He struggled to keep the fury that burned eternally in his breast from subsiding under the influence of those slyly enthralling tones. "What do you wish?" "Your death!" the betrayer roared, yet he felt his bloodlust being subdued by that oddly comforting voice. The cult leader sighed. "You worshippers of Khorne are so drearily predictable. Always the same tedious, unimaginable retort. I suppose it comes from following that monomaniacal deity of yours. Still, you are hardly to be blamed for your god's dullness, I suppose. When Khan has devoured your soul, you will pay for such blasphemy," Khan shouted. His followers shouted.
Now, there's 4 main chaos gods. Well, sometimes they're diametrically opposed. In Khorne, the blood god, in Slaanesh, the god of pleasure, these two are complete opposites. So they are chaos, they are both evil, but these two are blood enemy.
Their approval, but with less enthusiasm than Khan would have expected. For some reason, the man on the throne did not appear to be worried by the presence of so many armed men in his sanctum. "Somehow I doubt it, old chap. You see, my soul has long been pledged to thrice-blessed Slaanesh. So unless Khorne wants to stick his talon down Slaanesh's throat or some other orifice, he'll have a hard time getting at it." "Enough of this prattle!" Khan roared. "Death is upon you!" "Oh, be sensible," the cultist said, raising his hand. Khan felt a tide of pleasure flow over him, like that he had felt from the whip earlier, but 1,000 times stronger. All around him he heard his men moan and gasp. "Think. You can spend an eternity of pleasure being caressed by the power of Lord Slaanesh, while your soul slowly rots and sinks into his comforting embrace. Anything you want, anything you have ever desired can be yours. All you have to do is swear allegiance to Slaanesh. Believe me, it's no trouble." As the cult leader spoke, images flickered through Khan's mind. He saw visions of his youth and all the joys he had known before the rebellion of Horus and the battle for Terra. Somehow it all looked so clear and fresh and appealing, and it almost brought moisture to his tear ducts. He saw endless banquets of food and wine. For a moment, his palate was stimulated by all manner of strange and wonderful tastes, and his brain tingled.
Now, I didn't tell you this before, but all Space Marines are basically neutered. Now, if any girl is wondering, the Space Marines are fixed because the Emperor didn't want them going around and spreading Space Marine seed everywhere.
With a myriad of pleasures and stimulations. Visions of diaphanously clad maidens danced before his eyes, beckoning enticingly. For a moment, despite himself, Khan felt an almost unthinkable temptation to betray his ancient oath to the blood god. This was powerful sorcery indeed. He shook his head and bit his lip until the blood flowed.
No true warrior of Khorne would fall for this pitiful trick.
He bellowed.
All hail Slaanesh!
One of his followers cried.
The great lord of pleasure!
Shouted another.
Let us grovel and adore him!
A third said, as the whole force cast themselves down onto their knees. Khan turned to look at his men, disbelief and outrage filling his mind. It seemed that they did not possess his iron-willed belief in Khorne's power, that they were prepared to betray him for a few tawdry promises of pleasure. In every face, in every posture, he saw slack-jawed worship of the posturing peacock on the throne. He knew that there was only one thing to be done under the circumstances. The Slaanesh leader obviously felt the same. "Kill him!" he cried. "Offer up his soul to Slaanesh, and unspeakable ecstasy shall be your reward." The first of Khan's comrades raised his bolt pistol and squeezed the trigger. Khan threw himself to one side and the shell whipped past his head. The betrayer rewarded the traitor with a taste of Gorechild. The chain axe screeched as it bit through armor in a mighty sweep that clove him clean in two. The warrior gave a muted whine as his Slaanesh corrupted soul went straight to the warp. Suddenly the rest of the berserkers were upon him. Khan found himself fighting for his immortal life. These were no mere Slaanesh cultists. Newly tainted though they might be, they had once been worthy followers of Khorne, fierce, deadly, and full of bloodlust. Mighty maces bludgeoned Khan. Huge chainswords threatened to tear his rune-encrusted armor. Bolter shells tore chunks from his chest plate. Khan fought on, undismayed, filled with the joy of battle, taking fierce pleasure every time Gorechild took another life. At last, these were worthy foes. The body count swiftly ticked on to 2460 and continued to rise. Instinctively, Khan sidestepped a blow that tore off one of the metal skulls which dangled from his belt. The betrayer swore he would replace it with the attacker's own skull. His return stroke made good his vow. He whirled Gorechild in a great figure of eight and cleared a space all around him, sending two more traitors to make their excuses to the blood god. Insane bloodlust surged through him, overcoming even the soporific influence of the heart of desire, and for a moment, Khan fought with his full, unfettered power. He became transformed into an unstoppable engine of destruction, and nothing could stand against him. Khan's heart pounded. The blood sang through his veins, and the desire to kill made him howl uncontrollably. Bones crunched beneath his axe. His pistol blew away the life of its targets. He stamped on the heads of the fallen, crushing them to jelly. Khan ignored pain, ignored any idea of self-preservation, and fought for the pure love of fighting. He killed, and he killed. All too soon it was over, and Khan stood alone in a circle of corpses. His breathing rasped from his chest. Blood seeped through a dozen small punctures in his armor. He felt like a rib might have been broken by that last blow of the mace, but he was triumphant. His counter read 2485. He sensed the presence of one more victim and turned to confront the figure on the dais. The cultist leader stood looking down at him with a faint expression of mingled disbelief and distaste on his face. The naked girl had fled. The throne pulsed enticingly. "It's true what they say," the man said with a delicious sigh. If you want anything done properly, you have to do it yourself. The insinuating voice drove Khan's fury from him and left him feeling tired and spent. The cultist strode down from the dais. Khan felt almost ready to parry his blow. He knew he must throw off this enchantment quickly. The rune sword bit into his armor, and a wave of mingled pain and pleasure passed through Khan like poison. Summoning his last reserves of rage, he threw himself into the attack. He would show this effete fop who was the true warrior here. Khan hacked. Gorechild bit into the tattoos of the man's wrist. Gobbets of flesh and droplets of blood whirled away from the axe's teeth. The rank smell of hot bone filled the air as the hand separated from the arm and began to crawl away with a life of its own. Khan stamped on it, and a rictus of pain appeared on its owner's face, as if the hand was still attached. Khan swung. The cultist's head separated from its shoulders. The body swung its blade, a puppet still controlled by the strings of its master's will. It bit into Khan, and the wave of sensation almost drove him to his knees.
Nice trick,
Roared Khan, feeling the hand squirm beneath his boot.
but I've seen it before.
He brought his chain axe down on the head and clove it in two. The body fell to the ground, a puppet with its strings cut. 2, 4, 8, 6, Khan thought, with some satisfaction. The betrayer advanced upon the throne. It pulsed enticingly before him. Within its multiple facets, he thought he saw the face of a beautiful woman, the most beautiful he had ever seen, and the most evil. Her hair was long and golden, and her eyes were blue. Her lips were full and red, and the small white fangs that protruded from her mouth in no way marred her perfection. She looked at Khan beseechingly, and he knew at once he was face to face with the demon trapped within the heart of desire. "Welcome, Khan," a seductive voice said within his head. "I knew you would triumph. I knew you would be the conqueror. I knew you would be my new master." The voice was thrilling. By comparison, the cult leader's voice had been but a pale echo, but the voice was also deceptive. Proud as he was, mighty as he knew himself to be, Khan knew that no man could truly be the master of a demon, not even a fallen space marine like himself. He knew that his soul was once more in peril, that he should do something. But yet again he found himself enthralled by the persuasiveness of a Slaanesh worshipper's voice. "Be seated. Become the new ruler of this world. Then go forth and blast those meddlesome interlopers from the face of your planet." Khan fought to hold himself steady while the throne pulsed hypnotically before him, and the smell of heavy musk filled his nostrils. He knew that once he sat he would be trapped, just as the demon was trapped. He would become a slave to the thing imprisoned within the throne. His will would be drained, and he would become a decadent and effete shadow of the Khan he had once been. Yet his limbs began to move almost of their own accord, his feet slowly but surely carrying him towards the throne.
Now, it said earlier at the very beginning that this thing had the soul of a demon prince. And a demon prince is the most powerful thing other than a chaos god. So, one of the chaos gods had trapped a demon prince in the gem that is this chair.
Once more, visions of an eternity of corrupt pleasure danced in Khan's mind. Once more, he saw himself indulging in every excess. The demon promised him every ecstasy imaginable, and it was well within its power to grant such pleasures. He knew it would be a simple thing for him to triumph on its behalf. All he had to do was step outside and announce that he had destroyed the heart of desire. He was Khan. He would be believed, and after that it would be a simple matter to lure the Khorne worshippers to ecstatic servitude or joyful destruction. And would they not deserve it? Already he was known as the betrayer, when all he had done was be more loyal to his god than the spineless weaklings he had slaughtered. And with that, the demon's voice fell silent and the vision stopped, as if the thing in the throne realized its mistake but too late. For Khan was loyal to Khorne, and there was only room for that one thing within his savage heart. He had betrayed and killed his comrades in the World Eaters because they had not remained true to Khorne's ideals and would have fled from the field of battle without either conquering or being destroyed. The reminder gave him strength. He turned and looked back at the room. The reek of blood and dismembered bodies filled his nostrils like perfume. He remembered the joy of the combat, the thrill of overcoming his former comrades. He looked out on a room filled with corpses and a floor carpeted with blood. He was the only living thing here, and he had made it so. He realized that, compared to this pleasure, this sense of conquest and victory, what the demon offered was only a pale shadow. Khan turned and brought Gorechild smashing down upon the foul throne. His axe howled thirstily as it drank deep of the ancient and corrupt soul imprisoned within. Once more he felt the thrill of victory, and knew no regrets for rejecting the demon's offer. 2, 4, 8, 7. Life just doesn't get any better than this, Khan thought.
And that's the end of the story called Kharn the Betrayer. Now, Kharn is a major figure of Warhammer 40k, and he does come into a lot of books. It's just, this was a short story and not an entire book, to where you basically now understand Kharn the Betrayer. And like I said, Kharn is, well, he's Kharn. And he worships Khorne, and he kills people. And that's all he wants to do. I mean, he's a very simple man, and if offered everything, all he wants to do is just murder everyone in sight. Now, once again, the Blood God is into that, because he is the Blood God. Your host is very tired tonight. Now, they do have a Star Wars story that I'm going to save for another day. Huh. They have a Poe poem, The Raven. That's cool. I'll have that on another special day, too. Oh, cool. They've got a few things of Poe here. That's good. I will save those for a special night. And Brichella's up there, and she makes every night special. Well, that one was only 47 seconds, so... Honey, you gonna knock everything off? Just a moment. We have a kitty, and it's... Well, can you just, like, do something? Okay. There you go. She's trying to knock everything off. Now, I do not know this one, but it is... Oh, yes, I think I do. I've not watched it, but I do understand. Now, remember I told you there was 20 Space Marine Legions. Well, before the Emperor created the 20 Space Marine Legions, he had what was called the Thunder Warriors. And they were like Space Marines, but they were the first attempt at Space Marines. And typically, most of them had cancers. And they had other horrible things that were going to kill them. Now, the Space Marine Legions were a refined version. And the Emperor of Mankind used the Thunder Warriors he created to take over the Earth. And then he planned on conquering the entire galaxy. And this story called Betrayal is about the Thunder Warriors. So this has to be around 28,000 AD. Where the last... Oh, shit. It reset my thing. Where the last story he had was about the year 42,000. So really in Warhammer 40k, you can have about a 14,000 year stretch of history that most stories come from. So literally a greater length of time than what we consider human history. You can give me an ad?
I raise my fist.
Nope.
And behind me 1,000 marching footsteps suddenly come to a halt.
Hello, Izzy. We're telling
A
stories.
silent crack of the vox in my helm. We are ready, Shield Captain Aslan.
Understood, brother.
I reply.
Begin.
In the distance, a booming roar of bolter fire catches the attention of the warriors behind me, slowly flushing out the howling mountain winds. Flashes of explosions reflect off the volcanic stone walls in front of me. Shock waves of heavy ordnance fire shatter the ice caps, starting avalanches. I glance over to the mountain top. The wind is carrying snow. Footsteps approaching.
Now, this story should fit in because one of my next talks about Warhammer 40k, I'm going to do it all about the Emperor. Into where many times people get the idea that the Emperor of Mankind is a nice guy. Not necessarily. You know, there are large questions about the Emperor of Mankind. And he might not be a good guy. In this story, I believe, will illustrate it.
The perma-frozen ground crackling under heavy armored boots. I do not turn, but I know there are 3 of them behind me. They stop at an arm's length.
Shield Captain.
Says the Thunder Warrior closest to me.
The battle is adjoined. Our 1st and 2nd divisions has engaged the enemy. We are to crush the last of the Emperor's enemies. We should join the fray and engage ourselves.
I glance over my shoulder. My helmet's tactical display tells me that the warrior addressing me is the captain of the 7th Company, nominated to lead the 3rd Division. The 2 next to him are of lesser rank.
Hold your position, Captain.
I turn my gaze back to the battle over the ridges.
We are to remain here as the anvil when the enemy retreats to the plateau. No foe of the Emperor shall leave Mount Ararat today. Shield Captain.
I discover both agitation and disappointment in his growling voice. He is dying. I can see it. Like so many before him. They are degenerating ever more rapidly. He is aware of it too.
Have you forgotten your place, Thunder Warrior?
I turn.
I am the Emperor's word.
He takes a step back, and his orders are clear.
We are to remain here until the enemy has been routed by the 1st and 2nd Division of your forces. Our task is to finish them, whatever is left trying to flee. The men want battle. This is not how we wage war, Custodian. Our place is with our forces, crushing the enemy.
He grips the hilt of his gladius.
Now, you heard him say custodian. The custodians are the personal bodyguard of the Emperor, and there are 10,000 of them. And they also are super warriors, but they're different than the Space Marines. They're actually more powerful.
You were made to unify the old Earth,
He takes a step closer.
and you are the one who would hold us back.
The sound of the battle in the distance is fading. Lesser and lesser shots with every passing second.
Enough!
I look down at him, straight in the eyes. He takes a cautious step back. Good.
Thunder Warriors,
I tell the army before me.
long and hard you have fought, and victory is at hand.
My voice echoes in the wind.
The Emperor is but one step away in ending the war for old Earth.
They bang their weapons against their chest plates.
A new era will start today. An era which you can't be part of. But fear not, Royal Warriors. The Emperor is not without gratitude. For the centuries you have fought his wars to achieve unity, our Lord grants you all one last battle.
My grip tightens on my guardian spear.
And a Warrior's death.
As these last words leave my lips, the Thunder Warrior ranking as captain is already falling to the ground. Before his blood starts spraying out of the clean cut that split his torso into two, I have already discharged 2 shots from my spear's bolter. The heads of the two...
Now, our narrator turns out that he is one of the Emperor's bodyguards. So that would mean that this individual Custodes would be Constantine Valdor. He would be the head of the Emperor's bodyguard, and basically his main military man.
Others burst in an explosion of brain and bone. My left foot touches the ground from the step I started a moment ago. 3 dead bodies fall to the ground in unison, their blood freezing quickly on the ice of the mountain. The Thunder Warriors of the first few ranks 20 steps from me look at me in disbelief. A voice cries,
Betrayal!
The word echoes off the cliffs and spreads like wildfire on the lips. For the first time in their lives, their faces show doubt, confusion, fear. This gives me enough time to signal my lord's flagship, the Bucephalus, above me.
Now, brothers!
As I say this, I am already closing the distance between me and the first rank of the Thunder Warriors. Shocked, but only for a moment, they shoulder their bolters and begin to fire. Before the first shells scream past me, I am on them. I drive my spear through the side of the warrior closest to me, and as he expires in pain, a blinding flash envelops.
Now the Custodes have giant spears that are like machine guns. So they have like a giant spear on them, but they also have a gun that they can shoot. So they can spray it as a weapon, or they can just cut you in two.
The plateau. From Golden Light, 99 of my brothers enter the fray via teleportarium, forming up in battle ranks, readying their weapons. Lowering my spear, I point at the remaining Thunder Giants.
We owe them a warrior's death, brothers.
I bellow. 100 of us. 1,000 of them. A challenge indeed. The master of mankind is testing us. Their crude power armor seemed impenetrable for those faced during the Unification Wars. But we are Custodes, the Emperor's chosen, not the primitives of barbarian tribes from the wastelands of old terror. I am hit. Bolter shells explode on my pauldron. A glancing blow. Nothing more. A stain on my pride at worst. A fading nuisance. I empty the magazine of my guardian spear. With each shot, their lines grow thinner. A chainsword aims for my head, but is deflected effortlessly and hits the ground with the hand holding it. The Thunder Warrior screams, and as he charges, combat blade out, blood spraying from his severed wrists, I draw my Misericordia from my belt and drive it through his eye socket. His battle cry suddenly stops when my blade's hilt crashes with his skull.
A warrior's death.
I whisper. He collapses. As I look up, their front lines are broken. My companions make short work of them. We are to them as they are to mortals. Swift, merciless, death. They start to run. They are human after all.
Legion Astartes. They are retreating to the passage. You may proceed.
A growling voice answers. Understood. Neutralizing. My brothers form a shield wall, and we slowly start to pursue. Mercy killing those who weren't given a fitting end by our blades. We arrive at the passage 6 minutes later. Fading moans of the mortally wounded is carried by the wind. Scores of Thunder Warriors dead or bleeding in the snow. As I look up, a black power-armored figure with a winged helmet approaches me. He sheathes his knight's sword and bangs one fist on his chest plate as a salute.
Hail, shield captain!
Bellows the warrior. He removes his winged helm to reveal facial features that of a nobleman. I am Captain Melian of the 1st Legion Astartes. It's an honor to have fought by the side of the Emperor's chosen.
Hail, Dark Angel!
I say to the captain.
I am Shield Captain Aslan, custodian guard and companion of the Emperor of Mankind.
I return the gesture and remove my helm as well. I dread the circumstances of our first meeting. Aye. Have you suffered casualties, Shield Captain? Please. I look down at him. My apologies. The rest of the battalion reports that the 1st and 2nd Thunder Warrior Division were similarly neutralized. What of your losses, Captain? Minimal. Our apothecaries are recovering the gene seed of the fallen. Hasten your efforts, Captain Melian. The Persepolis will begin orbital bombardment of the site within the hour. Low-orbit scans show a few Thunder Warriors made it out of the kill zone. Matters not. Their accelerated decomposition will finish the task we started here today. The new age of man must begin with a clean slate. So wills the Emperor. Order your Legion to have all combat records erased from all logs. I will have all combat records erased. The Legion will have no log entries of what had transpired here today. I give a nod, and I continue.
Now, the thing is they said they were a Dark Angel captain. Well, this was what everyone believed. And this was in most of the lore. But when you found the book called Alpharius, he is another of the Primarchs. And it turns out those were not Dark Angels. Those were Alpha Legion. Now, once again, from what everyone mostly thinks, everyone thinks that the Dark Angels, along with a group of Custodes, wiped out the Thunder Warriors. But in reality, those were a different legion. And once again, that was Alpha Legion pretending they were Dark Angels. Because the Alpha Legion was a secret legion created by the Emperor. And they don't show it in this part, but Alpharius was there in another area, and he was making sure that very few, if any, escaped it. Now, this is why I want to show, because most people automatically assume humans are the good guy, or the Emperor is the ultimate good, and the Chaos Gods are the ultimate evil. Now, the Emperor created these Thunder Warriors to help him take over the Earth. And after he took over the Earth and made a better version of them, he killed them all.
Have 3 full squads of your legionaries, with demolition equipment, accompany my detachment back to the Persepolis. The Emperor has one last unfinished task to tend to, before we part to the stars. What may I tell the men about the target, Shield Captain? Inform them that they will have the honor to bring down the last church on Terra.
Well, that's cool. And that was the end of it. Now, that actually is important in Warhammer 40k. And I'm flirting a strike for even thinking about playing this. Telling you the truth. It's like, with it. Warhammer 40k, The Last Church. Now, this is long, and I'm not going to play it tonight. I thought about playing some of it, but I was looking at the length, and it's just way too long. It's an hour and 20 minutes. So, Okay, here's one version of it for about an hour and 11 minutes. So the other one was put out. That one I want to save to watch later. See my list. So yes, I'll play that. But you see, the Emperor of Mankind had what he called the Imperial Truth. And one of the things when he was taking over the earth, he was wiping out all religion. So after he had all the Thunder Warriors killed, he went himself to take out the last church on the planet. And that's why the story's called The Last Church. And it's a very interesting story. You know, where these other stories are full of battle, there is no battle in this story. The emperor goes into the last church and he talks to the last priest. And almost the entire story is the emperor of the mankind debating with the last priest. And it is very interesting. And once again, it also shows you that you might think that human good, but the emperor really isn't a clean guy, put it that way. Now, we went for about an hour and a half, and I'm going to keep these slow, so I'm going to talk for a few minutes and call it quits. And then in my next one, I will either play The Last Church or Gavin Bob, depending on who comes in. Matter of fact, probably I'd want to have more people in for Gavin Bob. So, you know, this time of year, you know, people get busy, especially on a weekend. So those I'll probably do on a weekday, you know, when there's not as much going on. But the Emperor is an interesting character, and that's why I wanted to play that story Betrayal. Because once again, you might think in black and white when it comes to Warhammer 40K, but you should always think of shades of gray. Now, one of the interesting stories that I had read once, it showed an apocalyptic attack on the planet. And you would think the most evil people in the universe were attacking this planet. And it was the Imperium of Mankind. So I'm going to get off here now because honestly, everyone, I am really, really tired. Because this cat's in heat and she kept me up all last night. And she's starting to sleep now. And if I go on and stay up, she's going to get a nap, she's going to wake up, and then she's going to keep me up all night again. So since she's going to bed right now, it would be wise for me, like someone with a baby, to sleep when the baby wants to sleep. So she might be out of heat. Because she's not acting the obnoxious ass she's been for the last couple days. So I'm hoping maybe we're at the end of that. But I'm looking at her little face right here, and I am tired. And there are some other short stories I could play, but oh my God, she's made me tired to no end. And since my baby's gonna sleep some, I'm gonna sleep some. Well, I've got blankets right here. You just can't see. I just got to move all of my devices and the box, and I can pull blankets right over me. And I'm going to sleep with my baby. My baby's farting too. She's been having wet cat food, and I think she ate a mouse yesterday. And in between that wet cat food yesterday and that mouse, these are some pretty special farts. It's like if death farted, what would it smell like? And that's exactly what it smells like. Now everyone, thank you for coming, and I'll see you real soon.